So, I've compiled these videos because I know a lot of medical students, they have an interest in surgery and suturing and those basic surgical skills, so I've just taken all the information and knowledge I know and am putting it all together in this one series so that it's all in one place, because it's a bit all over the place otherwise, and I'm not sure how well other medical schools teach a good curriculum when it comes to these basic surgical skills, because I know mine didn't as much as I'd hoped for it. So yeah, like I said, I put this series together to put some important things all in one place and build a bit of a foundation and some fundamentals you should know for suturing. That being said, this is not official surgical advice and should not be used in an actual theater unless you have been properly trained. This is just to build the basic skills and understanding of what you need to know in regards to suturing and basic surgical skills. So there's a lot of basic stuff I want to cover before we get into some actual hands-on stuff. So please bear with me in the meantime. We're going to go over all the instruments. We have a scalpel, we have forceps, scissors, and needle driver. We'll get to that in a bit. We have suturing packs here, we have a scalpel blade here, we have two suturing pads over here, and we have some string over here for knots. So yeah, first we'll get to all of this, but first we're going to discuss some terminology. So first, approximating your edges. This is basically the intention of suturing, and it's bringing the two edges of a wound together, and that's called approximating the edges. The term refers to the needle and the thread together. And these are sutures, so a needle and a thread. When I talk about taking a bite, this is taking your needle into the tissue and bringing it out. That's one bite, so taking a bite of the flesh. I have this diagram here. Just ignore these ones. When we get to the pads, you'll see these different layers, if it wants to focus. So the top layer, which is a light pink or beige, it represents the dermal, so the epidermis and the dermis, and is superficial. Then there's the barrier in between, which is the subcuticular plane, and then the deep pink is the subcutaneous fat or the deep tissue. So that's just something to keep in mind when we get to it. Next is the main goal of the best outcome when you approximate your edges are everted. So you want the edges of the tissue to have a bit of a bump like a mountain, because once the swelling and inflammation goes down, it'll heal flat. And we also want to make sure it's even on both sides, so it's not jaggedy, which you'll probably see me do when we get to it. We don't want to have them inverted, and flat is fine, but best case scenario is everted. And now taking a look at how we space our sutures. This is just a general rule of thumb, but if we enter here and the tissue edge is 2 millimeters, we have that represented as X. We want to come out equally on the other side, so another 2 millimeters. And then the next suture should be 2X, so 4 millimeters in between the next suture or next suture position. Just keep that in the back of your mind for now. This will come up later when we start getting our hands onto the tools. But this is also just a general rule of thumb and will change depending on the situation and scenario. That's another thing to mention as well. A lot of these are fundamentals and basics, but it does change a lot in actual practice, and this will come down to your surgical knowledge and experience and understanding, as well as what the situation requires. So don't take everything 100% as law, but these should be the basics that you build everything on top of. Another thing to mention, which is quite important, and while we build good habits now, is your posture. Make sure your posture is nice and straight, neck is straight, both of your arms should rest on the table to give you some stability. And once again, this will change depending on the position you're in. Same with this, the pad is over here. When practicing, it's best to have the wound parallel to you, not pointing to you, but And yeah, as I mentioned, it's very important that you don't build bad habits now, because those will be very hard to break as you move forward and actually start getting into proper technique and application. I'll probably mention it at points throughout, or you might spot it yourself, but you'll be able to see my bad habits and I'll try to rectify them as we go through. So yeah, it's very important that you don't build bad habits now and make sure you practice properly. And finally, obviously all this stuff is sharp. Scalpel's very sharp, needles are very sharp. I have experience with that from my leather work, so be very careful with everything. Make sure it's being disposed of properly, ideally into a sharp spin. Only into a sharp spin. And yeah, so just be safe with that. And with that being said, we'll just take a look at all these packages, how to read them and what to figure out based on them. So this is the suture pack, the scalpel pack. Here's the material, carbon steel. This is how it was sterilized, so by gamma radiation. Open here shows where you want to open it from, and it's a bit faint, but you might be able to see the number 10 from there, and that's the size of the blade, or the type of blade. And now we have the suture packs here. I'll be using different sutures throughout, but I just have these few to give a bit of a reference. So there's different ways to categorize them. There's absorbable, non-absorbable, there's the needle type, the needle size, the filament type. So over here we have polyester, which is the material, and braided, which means it's multiple filaments braided together, whereas this one, monofilament, is just one filament. Material here is propylene, nylon, silk. And then once again, non-absorbable, all of them non-absorbable. Absorbable ones will not need to be removed and better used for internal suturing and will be broken down by the body naturally. Then over here is the size of the thread, the cross section. So 4/0, 3/0. The smaller the first number, the larger the thread is. Move down over here. 25 millimeters is the length of the needle itself from tip to tip if we were to flatten it out. 75 centimeters is the length of the thread. Half C, this means half circle. So the shape of the needle is half of a circle. This one, for example, is 3/8 of a circle and it's 19 millimeters. And then over here it says curved cutting, and that is just the shape. So this triangle is a curved cutting needle. Over here is a reverse cutting, so it's the upside down triangle. And this one, the circle, is a round bodied. And yeah, like I said before, depending on your situation and your surgical knowledge, this is what will determine what type of thread you're using.